Hey, this is Justin. Welcome to another video. I was away on a family vacation until today, so I haven't yet got a chance to talk to you guys about The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3. This was perhaps the most dramatically different episode that The Mandalorian has ever had, and we got new insights into a lot, primarily the state of the New Republic at this point in Star Wars canon. And what is this point? Well, they've been somewhat cagey. Mando Season 1 took place in 9 ABY. The best indication of how much time has passed is probably the state of Navarro. I'm guessing, and I guess this is obvious, that we're anywhere from 1 to 3 years after Mando Season 1, so 10 to 12 ABY. Let's just say 11. That would put us 7 years after the Battle of Endor, 6 years after the Battle of Jakku, in honestly a time period we haven't seen explored very much in Star Wars canon. We know the New Republic is fairly well established. They've got a full government set up on Coruscant as well as other planets. They're fully decommissioning Imperial technology, and we've learned really the extent to which this is happening. First off, though, I want to talk about personnel because that was obviously the focus of this episode, and it was an interesting continuation from what we got in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. There, we see several former Imperials, including most notably Yrica Quell, go through the Imperial reconditioning camps so that they can serve the New Republic. And Yrica actually has a very similar conflict to that of Dr. Pershing. She has unique skills. In her case, she's a pilot, and at many points, she believes that she can do more for the new government than she's allowed to do. One thing I would have liked to see touched in The Mandalorian that ultimately wasn't was how Imperials were treated based on when they defected. Obviously, anyone who defected after the Battle of Jakku, or significantly after the atrocities committed by those in the name of the Empire during Operation Cinder, will be seen as just worse people than those who defected when they got the chance. And maybe we do get a bit of that with Elia Kane when it's revealed that she worked for Moff Gideon. Like, he's been a warlord up until recently and is perhaps still active. So kind of an interesting look at how the New Republic is trying to reintegrate former Imperials. I suspect we'll see more of that in the show and also more expanded universe material released in this era. I really like Pershing as a character. His arc has been very interesting where he genuinely seems to want to help people. But anyway, one of the other big themes of this episode was, I guess you could call it the incompetence of the New Republic. And I want to say right off the bat, is the New Republic as bad as the Empire? No, certainly not. At the very least, the New Republic has allowed people to be somewhat free. We can see that on Coruscant. It's not overtly evil. Probably the worst thing we see them do is the remixed Mind Flayer, but honestly, considering what Dr. Pershing was found to be doing, that's a pretty light punishment. Now, obviously, I don't condone electroshock therapy in the real world, but he could have been executed, honestly, for what he did. And the New Republic generally being incompetent doesn't make them evil, although they really do seem to be incompetent. The complete refusal to use any sort of Imperial technology is especially frustrating. Like, we know they've directly used Star Destroyers from Alphabet Squadron Book 3. We know they've also been repurposed into the Starhawks. Now they're kind of just sitting in a scrap heap on Coruscant. Similarly, the equipment that Pershing is going through could have uses, but they're throwing it away. That being said, I understand the rationale. After you've deposed a terrible authoritarian government, you don't want to be seen as using their tools. And we already know that the New Republic largely demilitarized after the Battle of Jakku, and that's something that's been debated for a long time, really, since the start of new Star Wars canon. Does it make sense? Well, you can sort of see where Mon Mothma is coming from. The idea in demilitarizing the New Republic is that things would return to how they were with the Republic for thousands of years, with no central military and instead individual systems responsible for protecting themselves and really mediating disputes. Remember, the Republic had no standing military or navy before the Clone Wars, only a small force of peacekeepers. Also remember, the Alliance's full name is the Alliance to Restore the Republic, so perhaps it's appropriate that Mon Mothma, upon defeating the Empire, or at least wounding them mortally, has significantly downsized the Navy. It seems, a bit nonsensical because as viewers, and I think in universe too, there's the pretty obvious argument that, hey, we haven't really defeated the Empire. We've kind of just destroyed a lot of them. They're still out there, but that's kind of the point, I guess. It's an interesting debate. So I certainly don't think the New Republic as a faction is ruined because of how it's been handled in The Mandalorian. It is, however, very different from the strong New Republic that we got in Star Wars Wars Legends. This one is built with not the same inherent deficiencies of the Empire, but deficiencies of a completely different sort. And we know by the time of Star Wars Bloodline that these issues never really went away, and they actually helped the First Order form outside what should have been the watchful eyes of those within government. Anyway, it's an interesting look at the government that I'm sure will be continued as the major threat of the era. Probably Grand Admiral Thrawn emerges, and the New Republic has to find some way to directly fight his forces. This is ultimately not something the Mandalorian really had much choice in how to handle, however, because they were kind of constrained by the pre-existing lore, but generally I think they're doing a pretty good job. Other than that, I thought the episode was quite good. I enjoyed the Coruscant scenes. Sometimes they felt like they dragged on a little bit, but honestly, at this point for the Mandalorian, I'd prefer a little too long over a little too short. I also really enjoyed the ship combat section we got over Bo-Katan's world. The Mandalorian has been absolutely nailing these combat sections, so I'm really looking forward to see what they've got in store, not only for the rest of this season, but for any major space battles we get, whether in Ahsoka or some other show. I am very curious to see what is actually going on with Bo-Katan, because at the end there, I really got mixed feelings. On one hand, on my first viewing, I did kind of get the feeling that she was a bit creeped out by Mando's weird cult-like friends. However, on my second viewing, and of course, it's hard to tell with her mask on, it almost feels like she was gratified by the acceptance, and she's got to be wondering whether there's something to Mando's gig if the Darksaber has found its way into his hand and he's now encountered the Mythosaur. I also really like the hint that the Mythosaur may have been exposed by Imperial bombings, not only altering the tectonic plates around the lake, but presumably also exposing the beast itself. I don't know, let me know what you think down below.